Welcome, folks. Today's near-death experience comes from Kelso experience number 4165 on nderf.org. Aruba, October 15th, 1996. Because of my work, I attended a meeting for the Latin American distributor of Nelcor Puritan Bennett in October 1996 at Aruba in the Caribbean Sea. The meeting schedule was for a week with Wednesday afternoon programmed for free time activities. I chose the Sea Adventure snorkeling cruise in a very large boat. Recommendation of the captain was to wear a life vest. I saw my colleagues jumping into the sea, and I also jumped into the sea just with snorkel and frog shoes. It was about 2:00 p.m. and the boat dropped anchor about 200 meters from the seashore. The combined waves with their amplified power quickly dragged me away from the boat. When I was about 100 meters from the seashore, the force of the waves began to sap my strength and resilience. I thought I had better stop struggling in those waves as soon as I could, so I headed for a small promontory of rocks that jutted out from the shoreline. It was the closest landing spot I could see and looked like an ideal resting place. Despite my age of 39 years, I was still very athletic and I was not worried about whether I could make it that far. In a short while, I was proven wrong. I began swallowing seawater and noticed that one of my frog shoes was missing. My snorkel was now hanging around my neck useless. As I look across the water towards the rocks, they seem farther away than ever. I was losing my strength and I could hardly breathe. Soon, I simply could no longer keep my head above water. Then I found I was not swimming anymore. I was looking down at myself from above. At first, I did not even recognize that it was me. There I was, unmoving and floating in the water. I saw my wristwatch on my arm, reflecting the sun. However, even though I thought I was far above the water, I also seemed to be looking at it from no more than 3 inches away. I could see the tiny details of numbers and letters on the dial, and even the smallest details of the works inside it. I mean, that I was really inside the wristwatch and observing the cogwheels of the watch machinery moving. I understood each movement while observing the battery feeding the mechanisms with the energy to the cogwheels. The molecules of the moving cogwheel had like an infrared color, and the pieces that were not moving had like an ultraviolet color. I believe the difference in color was between kinetic and potential energy. It was so weird and wonderful. Then I found myself back in the water and inside my body floating somewhere below the surface. Looking upward, seeing myself, which had just been up there. The sunshine dazzled my eyes, beaming with incredible beauty through the seawater. Then I was looking down without turning my head and I saw the sunlight gradually diffuse as it traveled toward the very bottom. Looking as deep as I could to the ocean floor, I felt it as immensely and powerfully black. Its vast darkness was overwhelming, but it was also very powerfully calming. What overwhelmed me? Moreover, why at the end it changed to a complete peace feeling? Is it normal to be afraid of darkness? That is how it should be. Darkness represents the unknown. When I began to see under the water toward the seashore, I saw a small sunken wooden boat that resembled a buccaneer ship. The ship was probably a fake sunken ship for tourists. Then I looked to the floor of the ocean. First, it was totally black. Not a blackness as like a lack of light, but as a blackness full of life. At that instant, the notion of time and space vanished. I've seen in front of my eyes a macabre parade of natives, pirates, sailors, women, children, drowning, yes, drowning in present tense, in this very place during centuries. Their fear is the dreadful darkness that makes us afraid. During the parade, I was about 10 feet under the water. I saw them one by one. For example, I heard a person splashing on the surface and beginning to drown. The person was taking in water, gasping, and struggling to go up. I do not know if they fell down from a boat, committed suicide, or were killed or running away from a battle or hurricane. I do not know that. I saw them passing in front of and near me, going down to the bottom of the sea. Only after reaching the bottom of the sea, then begins the drowning of another person. Maybe in another time, maybe centuries after the last one I saw. It is so difficult to understand how this vector of time works in this reality. They were not translucent as ghosts. They were normal human beings. I knew they were natives, sailors, or pirates. I knew not only by their clothing, but somehow we were connected to each other by our thoughts. I felt each one of them as a part of me. I observed their facial expressions, however, I was paying more attention to their feelings, their suffering, and their fear of death. The knowledge was more emotional than visual. I saw about 40 humans drowning. One person impressed and amazed me most of all. She was a pregnant woman, perhaps European, and in a long white elegant skirt. She had long brown hair. Her dress resembled the style from the 1900s. She was not struggling for her life as the others before and after her. I could understand her thoughts. She was deeply concerned about her baby and not about her life. As her clothes were wet, the shape of the pregnant belly was remarkable. She was hugging her belly with two hands as if trying to hug her baby. I do not know if her baby was girl or boy. Suddenly, we looked at each other, and her facial expression and her thought was, "What the hell are you observing? How could she see me?" Her wonderful eyes and attractiveness stunned me. Feel she could see my soul. I was thinking, is this really happening to me? All the tragedy of human destiny reflected here. The summit of love, life, and death together. I thought to myself, now I am one of them. I started to recall significant moments of my past life. It was like traveling to the past to be the main character of the story and an observer at the same time. I learned so many things about myself that I did not know. Again, in present time, bitter reality overwhelmed me. I was so sad and concerned about my daughters, wife, and mother. Here was when something incredible happened. I felt surrounded by a luminous warm water that moved the darkness away. Only brightness surrounded me. My fear and sadness became love and joy. I knew I was diving into the life force and having a mystical encounter. Everything was moving in slow motion while surrounded by drowned people's souls and surrounded by my living family's souls. I had a desire to hug each one of them. There was love, endless love everywhere. The past, present, and future together at the same time. We are like one immense family. Everything made sense to me. I felt a peace I never felt before. I had no fears or worries. In fact, I had a sense of complete acceptance, as if everything were going as it should. At this instant in time, I found myself in my home in Asunción. It is like if I was sitting on the top of a ladder, like those ladder A type. Down on the floor, my daughters are playing, ages 5 and 7. I enjoyed so much that moment, the satisfaction of realizing that all was right with them. I do not know how long I was observing that scene. Time and space is so confusing on this side of the reality. Then, I was in my mother's house, and she was working in a little store she had. I was worried about her reaction when she found out that I drowned. I'm an only son, fatherless, and did not know how the tragic news would affect her. After that, I am in a living room, unknown for me, and talking with Andreas, who was an appreciated old friend since we were kids, who passed away years ago while he was on duty. He was an anti-narcotics police officer. We were told that he was shot during a raid in Pedro Juan Caballero, a city boundary with Brazil. We talked a long time remembering our childhood. He told me his family needed financial assistance since he left a wife and children. He told me that he was thinking to work as a night security guard after finishing his day work as a police officer. This amazed me. "How could you say that?" I interrupted him. "You are already dead," I told him. "No. Happens you just dreamed I had an accident and died." The truth is, that didn't happen. The scene is so real. I start to hesitate. I'm confused. In that unclear state of mind, I hear a yell. Are you okay, Kelso? Then again, I clearly hear shouting. It is Jorge's voice. I grasped to the rock. No, I reply, not feeling well. He approaches me. With one hand he is grabbing the frog shoe I lost. From the rock to the beach was not deep water. I walked. He leaves me on the beach and says, I'll go back to the boat for help. Once in the boat, my colleagues made jokes about me. Juan said I just pretended an accident for being the center of attention of the group. I only smiled with them. For them, I was just missing for less than 15 minutes. For me, I spent hours and thousands of miles in the most unbelievable of experiences. Even today, I really do not know what happened to me in that sea. I only know for sure that my life was different after that event. In many ways, I changed for the better. It is like if a new dimension or portal opened inside me. I corroborated all my visions the following days. My mother and daughters wore the dresses I saw, and that they were doing that Wednesday afternoon things as I exactly saw in the event. A week later, in Asuncion, I visited Andres' mother's house. His family were in a money emergency necessity, as he was telling me in the event. That coincidence shook my heart as I realized Andres was telling me the truth as when he was alive.